Israel attempted to kill senior members of Hamas in an airstrike on Tuesday in Qatar. This led to a sharp escalation that brought the Middle East into the brink of yet another war. This was the first time that Israel struck a close American ally and, more importantly, one of the primary mediators involved in the negotiations between Israel and Hamas to end the Gaza war. The Israeli strike happened on a Hamas meeting where the terror group was discussing a ceasefire proposal backed by US President Donald Trump. It happened in a residential complex, even as the officials had gathered there for the negotiations over how to end the Gaza war. The direct attack on Qatar's territory also risked antagonizing the Qatari government and also destabilizing diplomatic efforts. Qatar's political and economic stability hinges on its reputation as a safe haven for business and tourism. The Tuesday afternoon attack by Israel's Air Force hit an area in the capital Doha that is very close to schools and embassies and residential complexes. It sent black smoke billowing into the air. The hit itself was at a residential apartment complex where the negotiators had gathered. Hamas said that the Israeli strike had failed to kill senior Hamas officials without specifying whether those individuals had sustained injuries. In a statement, the group confirmed that the son of Khalil al-Hayya, who is the chief negotiator for Hamas, the office manager, and 3 other people affiliated with Hamas had been killed, but the main negotiator, al-Hayya, had managed to escape. But the strike happened to kill a member of Qatar's internal security forces as well as injure a number of civilians. And that prompted a sharp rebuke from the Qatari Prime Minister. Qatar will continue its role as a mediator in the war. Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani, the country's Prime Minister, said right after the attack. But he added that the Gulf state has also formed a legal team to determine how to respond to Israel's wanton and illegal attack. In fact, the Qatari Prime Minister denounced Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, calling him out by name.
إن الهجوم الإسرائيلي اللي تم اليوم على أرض قطر يعني لا نستطيع أن نسميه إلا بإرهاب دولة يمارسه شخص مثل نتنياهو في سياق هذه السياسات الممنهجة ومحاولاته المستمرة لزعزعة الأمن والاستقرار الإقليمي هي فقط رسالة واضحة للمنطقة ككل. وهذه الرسالة تقول أن هناك لاعب مارق في هذه المنطقة وهناك عربدة سياسية مستمرة في هذه المنطقة وانتهاك لسيادة الدول. نتنياهو بنفسه صرح بأنه سيعيد تشكيل الشرق الأوسط. هل هذه الرسالة بأنه سيعيد تشكيل الخليج أيضاً؟
President Trump gave a conflicting account on when exactly his administration knew about the Israeli strike. First, he said on social media that the US military had informed his administration that Israel was attacking Hamas in Doha in Qatar. Then he said that he immediately directed his Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, to inform the Qataris of the attack. But by the time Witkoff had informed the Qataris, he had done so too late to stop the attack. Trump also said he had spoken to both Benjamin Netanyahu along with the Emir of Qatar right after the attack.
Well, I'm not thrilled. I'm not thrilled about it. I don't have to do that. I'm not thrilled about the whole situation. It's not a good situation. But I will say this, we want the hostages back. But we are not thrilled about the way that went down today.
By surprise,
I'm never surprised by anything, especially when it comes to the Middle East.
How did you learn about this?
I'll be giving a full statement tomorrow, but I would tell you this. I was very unhappy about it, very unhappy about every aspect, and we got to get the hostages back. But I was very unhappy about the way that went down.
The Qatari Prime Minister said that the United States had not warned Qatar ahead of the attack, and in fact the warning came until 10 minutes after the attack happened. He accused the Israeli government of trying to sabotage every attempt to create opportunities for peace. Israeli officials have vowed to kill Hamas leaders who were involved in the planning of the October 7, 2023 attack on southern Israel, which was the trigger point, which is what ignited the war in Gaza. In that attack, over 1,200 Israelis were killed and 250 of them taken hostage. A week ago, Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir, who is the Israeli military's chief of staff, suggested that Israel was focused on attacking not just Hamas in Gaza, but also Hamas officials in the wider region. Hamas representatives met on Monday with the Qatari Prime Minister to discuss Trump's proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza. The group had then planned to convene again on Tuesday to further talk about that proposal. That is when the Israeli strike happened. Netanyahu has said that Israel was willing to end the war, but only if Hamas releases all the remaining hostages, disarms itself, and Gaza is demilitarized. All of these are conditions which Hamas has publicly opposed. Israel believes there are still about 20 hostages who are alive out of the 50 remaining in Hamas custody. But as the diplomatic storm kicked up between Israel and Qatar, Israel appeared to try to distance the United States from the attack itself. In fact, Israel said that this was a wholly independent Israeli operation and had nothing to do with America.
At noon today, I convened the heads of Israel's security organizations and authorized a surgical precision strike on the terrorist chiefs of Hamas. These are the same terrorist chiefs who planned, launched, and celebrated the horrific massacres of October 7th.
Thousands of American soldiers are stationed at the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, which also happens to be the regional headquarters of the US Central Command. And Qatar agreed to host an office for Hamas in Doha at the request of the United States. Qatar has previously played a role in negotiating between America and the Taliban before the Taliban took power in Afghanistan in 2021. Qatar was thought to be neutral ground, in part because it has diplomatic contacts with the Israeli government. Senior Israeli government officials have traveled quite often to Qatar, in fact, a number of occasions in the last couple of years since this war began. They've been speaking with Qatari leaders about securing the release of the remaining hostages in Gaza. In fact, Qatar was one of the 3 mediators in the negotiations between Israel and Hamas, along with the United States and Egypt, who were the other 2. The willingness to attack Qatar's capital could also undermine Israel's long-standing efforts to build ties with Gulf Arab countries that it views as potential allies against Iran. Israel had normalized ties with the UAE and Bahrain through the Abraham Accords and was hoping to do so with Saudi Arabia when October 7th happened. But this Tuesday strike made Qatar, as well as other Gulf countries, appear much more vulnerable to external attacks. Now, this is despite the fact that Qatar has invested billions of dollars in American military equipment. In his recent visit there, the Qataris presented President Trump with a luxury Boeing 747 jet. The Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar was attacked by Iran back in June during the Iran-Israel war, although that strike was largely thwarted by American defense systems. But the Israeli strike now is being seen as a major act of provocation and could possibly lead to yet another war in a region which is already plagued by numerous wars over the last couple of years.
Fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.